hope is really important. You can't be prescriptive about what someone's future should look like. You can't be prescriptive about how someone should live their life. You can't be prescriptive about any of those things. And I think you have to give people the opportunity to have hope, because hope is everything, right? Hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better future. In fact, it's what keeps humanity going, because we have hope for tomorrow. So you can't really take that away from a person.
Hello. Welcome to the 360 Method, a weekly podcast where we talk about everything Autism 360. Every week, we're catching you up with what's going on the program, talking to team members and special guests. And this week, we are joined by Dr. Dinesh Palipana and his mum, Chirthrani Palipana. It's so lovely to have you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us, Ella.
Oh, that's my pleasure. So Dinesh is a doctor, a lawyer, a researcher, a disability advocate, as well as having been awarded the Order of Australia and having been Queensland Australian of the Year 2021. And his mum, Chithrani Palipana, is a rehabilitation counsellor and disability advocate working in the NDIS space. What a cool duo. I'm so happy to have you on, and I'm your host, Ella Bailey. I'm an Autism 360 veteran coach and an explorer of all things parenting support. I come from a behavioural psychology background. I worked in research before joining the team, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, from whose land I live and work, and from where this podcast is being broadcast today. So I would love for you both to tell our listeners a little bit about the background of your family and how you came to be involved in your experience of disability. I know that you could go into lots of detail, but as much as you like, I'd love to hear it.
All right. Mum, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll go after you. Is that?
All right. Well, I guess we would both acknowledge the Ugambe people, which is where we're talking from. But we are from Sri Lanka. That's where Mum and I were both born. And we lived in Sri Lanka through a very difficult time the country was having. Actually, Sri Lanka is going through a pretty tough time now, even still. But when I was a kid there, the country was going through a war. And it was going through all sorts of stuff, and life was really difficult for people. There was a lot of poverty, there was a lot of corruption, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of there's so much that everyone was going through. So that's what I was growing up in. And I think when we're talking about education, which I guess is a theme that all this is related to in some way, but even getting into a school was really tough in Sri Lanka because everyone expected a bribe. And my parents didn't want to be a part of that system. So we ended up finding our way to Australia through a skilled migration program. On my 10th birthday, we landed in Sydney. Yeah. And I think I can speak for Mum as well when I say we feel very lucky to be in a place like this. So we initially lived in Sydney for a few months, then we moved to Byron Bay, finally Queensland, and then Gold Coast, where I've been since 2008. Initially, I did a degree in law at the Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, ended up studying medicine at Griffith University. And when I was in medical school, I had a car accident and sustained a spinal cord injury. And that's how I ended up using a wheelchair and came back to medical school. And Mum and I went through a lot of hard times. After the spinal cord injury, we lost a lot of family. We lost our financial security. But we persevered and I finished medical school, and here we are, 6 years down the track. And life is good. We're very grateful. And, as far as family goes, it's just me and mum. But we are still very, very grateful for what we have.
Yeah. So if you would like me to say a little bit about my personal experience, how we became involved in the world of disability. Like Dinesh said, he met with an accident when he was in medical school halfway through.
Yeah.
So when I was first told that my son has sustained a spinal cord injury as a result of a motor vehicle accident, I honestly didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I did not know. And however, when I went to the hospital, they observed me the worst case scenario, as in your son will never be able to even lift his hands up. They will fall back on his face, will not be able to breathe on his own, speak. And literally they said, prepare yourselves for a lifelong hard journey. So they never even mentioned what are the possibilities of him recovering, what are the positive things at all. So being his mother, I always believed in the positive side of his life.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I hear a lot from parents that, they do have this really negative outlook on what the potential for their child's future is. I hear a lot of hopelessness. I hear a lot of uncertainty. And I wonder what you, I guess specifically you, Dinesh, feel that the medical industry, the kind of assessment process and the diagnostic process, the role that has to play in the outlook that people have for the prognosis of their child's disability, whatever that may be.
I think hope is really important. You can't be prescriptive about what someone's future should look like. You can't be prescriptive about how someone should live their life. You can't be prescriptive about any of those things. And I think you have to give people the opportunity to have hope, because hope is everything, right? Hope for a better tomorrow, hope for a better future. In fact, it's what keeps humanity going, because we have hope for tomorrow. So you can't really take that away from a person. So hope is really important. And I think our job is really to help people live the life that they want. And our job is to empower people. And our job is to support people through whatever they're going through, whatever their health issues are.
Yeah.
It's not so much to dictate to people and be paternalistic about what they're doing. So I think the whole idea should be to be as person-centered as possible, and to be goal-oriented about our patients' goals or whatever that might be, and to put our skills to use so we can make that a reality and to make that possible. So I think there's probably a bit of a shift in mindset about what needs to happen. And then it's more about shared decision-making and shared goals and shared problem solving to come to solutions. But I don't know if that paradigm shift in thinking has got there just yet.
Yeah, interesting. And obviously there has to be a marriage between a parent's own understanding of what disability means and, the context that is brought to them by that kind of diagnostic situation. But Chithrani, what do you see in the work that you do around rehabilitation counselling for carers? What is that experience like for them, and what do you do?
Well, the carers, like when we say the carers, there are two different types of carers, as you know, informal and family, and also the paid support network. But what happens in the family is when someone's, like even when a child is born with a disability, they find it very difficult to come to terms with it all. And then also they don't have a lot of support out there to teach them how to take care of them, because every individual is different. So we can actually specific to certain different areas of disabilities, but as humans, we are all individuals, and sometimes, we may have the same diagnosis, but we may have different personality types and all that. So it's like when a child was born, the mother reads the child, mother understands the child, even though they don't speak. So I think as mothers, we understand our children better. So becoming a formal, informal support and a carer, being a mother has lots of what do you call the positivity towards the child with a disability.
Yeah, absolutely. And from both of your, I guess, different spheres of expertise, what do you see the biggest issue being faced for carers of people with a disability being? Dinesh?
That's a really interesting question. I think like, when I look at my mom, and actually even when I'm at work and when I see other family members and people that really love the person that they're caring for, they are fierce in their love and they're fierce in their advocacy for them. I think as systems, we need to facilitate that better, and we need to involve those people better. And I think the frustration for those people is actually that, where it's hard for them to navigate systems, and it's hard for them to get the best that they want for their loved one or the person that they're caring for. So it's probably, and it's not really an interface that's been well developed yet. I don't think we don't really involve caregivers as efficiently and as closely as we should. There are certain things in my life that my mom and my team, sometimes they have more insights than I do, because they see it from an external thing about, how I might manage a certain thing, or how I, whether it be equipment or whatever, they might have certain insights from their perspective that are really valuable. So I think we just need to have ways where we can integrate that better and reduce that frustration.
Chithrani, what's your take on that?
Well, I also feel the system needs to pay more attention to the carers, and because sometimes you get told what you can do and what you cannot do, but I don't think that's the way it should be, because like I said before, the circumstances are different. And if somebody says, okay, I'll give you a couple of hours of break so you could go and do some meditation, but maybe that's not what I want. That's not what the other mothers want. So these days I'm thinking, so what if, like, especially the young moms with young children who were born with disabilities, what if someone steps in and say, okay, I'll give you a break for the day. You go do whatever you want to do, catch up with your friends, have coffee with your husband, partner, just do your hair, do your makeup, and have a day to yourself, and know that your child is going to be safe in your hands. So things like that would really help a person to, live as a person as well, because lots of mothers forget themselves, which is not a good situation, because they need to be stronger, they need to be happier to give others. Their cup needs to be full to give others. So, I think the system needs to look at things very differently towards the informal support and the family carers.
Totally. We notice here at Autism 360 that a lot of parents come to us when they're feeling really alienated from the intervention process. So they feel as though, they've had to give over a lot of the direction and control over how they want their child's development to look, to people who don't know their child, who spend an hour a fortnight with their child, and they're very excluded from that process. So we work to bring them back on board, to give them the tools that they need to navigate those systems, and to feel like they know what they're doing. There's a lot of disempowerment narratives around parenting or caring for a person with a disability. And I think the system is sort of set up to almost divorce that, parenting from intervention, and it so doesn't have to be that way. What in, pie in the sky, imagine, the government had all the funding in the world, how would you set up a disability care support system for somebody, say, who was coming into our program? So a pediatric client under 18 with parents who wanted to get involved. What would that look like to you? Chithrani, do you want to start?
Okay, Ella, as you and I both know, children are forgotten by the system when it comes to funding.
Yeah.
So they say that it's the responsibility of the parent to look after the child. So what about, yes, it is a responsibility of the parent to look after the child, but what if a child has special needs? So special needs has a different meaning. It doesn't necessarily mean the parent is not capable of looking after the child, but with support, they can do a better job.
Yeah.
So I would imagine if the system looks at in a more different way to support these children, fund these children. And recently I have come across a few kids, they can't afford an iPad because the mother can't go to work. The mother suddenly have to give up on their work and everything. Even I got given an ultimatum, whether you go look after your son or just come back to work. This is a local government at the time I was working for, and they didn't come up with a flexible plan or anything. Now I know, working in the system, that they should have actually come to me with some suggestions rather than saying choose between the two.
Yeah.
So things like that, we need to, I think even small differences we make, even talking about these things, will actually help in the future to come up with a better plan, better system, because people with disability are important. They actually provide a better service when they go into workforce, and the kids are super, super intelligent as well. I know, especially kids with autism, they're super intelligent. The majority of them are. So we need to do what we can do to encourage them and to empower the parents to do more, do better.
Yeah. Dinesh, do you want to have your turn at pie in the sky imagining?
I don't know. That's a pretty tough question. I agree with Mom, but I don't think, you mentioned the thing about unlimited funding. If the government had unlimited funding, I think it's actually more about, a lot of the funding that is there. It could probably go even further if we actually involved the families more, and if we actually had a more integrated approach. Yeah, exactly. You agree, right? So I think if we just actually listened to people, actually looked at what they want, actually worked with them, whether it be resources, whether it be equipment, whether it be whatever else, I think we can make that dollar go further. And I think they'd be so much more efficient, be so much more amazing. So I would again like to see that. Like, this is all, and all these things are created for choice and control, and we need to give that. We need to enable that for families. I am sure, I'm confident that if we did the numbers and we figured it out, I think we wouldn't actually need more money to do much of this.
Yeah, that's such an interesting take. I think, I could stand on my soapbox forever and say carer-mediated intervention is where it's at, but everybody will sort of feel, well, yeah, you have a vested interest in that now, don't you? And yeah, I do. But I think a big part of my experience is from way before I worked for Autism 360. I went and did part of my psych undergrad in Copenhagen. And of course, Scandinavian exceptionalism, they have a very different focus and structure to the way that their disability support system is set up. And at all times, the focus is on reducing direct intervention with a person with a disability, and at all times building up the network around that person to build a community that can meet that person's need, right? So it's a total diversion away from this medical model of disability and towards the social model of disability. And of course, they have direct interventions where necessary. A lot of that, especially for folks under 18, is connected with the education system. So it's all very intertwined with their education system. And it just has such a different outcome and such a different feeling when a child is picked up at school with having something going on. The way that the school intervenes is so incredibly different that it made me realize what families look like when they're being supported as a unit, and what families look like when there is a far more directed, specific to the person funding model. What sorts of things, contrasts to those two approaches do you see happening in Australia, Dinesh? Do you see any kind of care-mediated stuff going on as of yet, or not really?
I don't know. I think I wonder if it's enough. Actually, probably not. Not like what you were just describing happens elsewhere. It sounds amazing, actually, because you're building it. So you're building a community, you're empowering people. Like it's just teaching a person to fish almost, by the sound of it. I don't think we're there just yet. Having said that, the NDIS and a lot of the schemes that we have are also fairly new. It's what, 6-7 years old, something like that.
Yeah, right.
At best. So I think there's room for development. I think there's room for evolution. I think there's room for a lot of modern ideas to come through. So, but it's going to take people to do that. It's going to take people to craft that. It's going to take our families and the stakeholders that actually benefit from this to be voices. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is because, if you look at the NDIS, I don't think at the moment there's anyone with a disability on the board. I don't think in the leadership there's anyone with a disability, as far as I know. So how we actually need people with lived experiences. We need their families. We need people like that to actually drive these schemes so we can get the best outcomes that we need, and to drive it in the direction that we want. And now, having said that, we described 2 different systems, Scandinavia, we described here. I've got to just highlight that, again, in a place like Sri Lanka, there is no NDIS. There is nothing. So we're still pretty lucky, because there are many countries that don't have it. But I think that's, again, more reason for us to make sure that we are taking this precious thing that we have and not letting it erode, and molding it into something that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. We work, a lot of our staff and a lot of our clients and patients come from the US. So there's a really stark contrast, even within the kind of Autism 360 family, of Australian clients who do have access to this incredible support system that is the NDIS, and then people who are coming in from the US side whose access to support is so entirely different. That looks really, really different. Chithrani, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, it's interesting how you mentioned about Scandinavian countries. Like when I did some study along those about those countries as well, and because my area of specialty is spinal cord injury, it's rehab counseling. And I've learned that when a person is coming out of the hospital based on their level of injury, the funding and everything else is ready when they get discharged into the community. But it's so different here. It just, the planner decides what the person gets and what the person is not getting. So And I think things will have to change to that level, so then we could support people better. Otherwise, they have to go back to the community and they have to start struggling, and they just don't get that quality of life out there because they have the funding issues hanging over them. So yeah, I think we have to adopt better models as well. And like Dinesh said, but third world countries, it's a different kettle of fish altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea of working with what we have to build it better. You know, we have people around us who want and need us to kind of step up to the plate and shape what we have into what we need. I wanted to, speaking of kind of what we have and what we need, I wanted to chat about your book, Dinesh. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about the inspiration behind it, and all that kind of thing.
Well, you know what? It's funny you asked me that, because last night we got the first copies of the book in the mail, which was pretty amazing to see it and hold it and
smell it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's been a series of sliding doors events that led to the book. For a long time, my friends and people that I knew were saying, you should write a book, you got to write a book, and you got to talk about your experiences. But I ended up, thanks to Mum, actually, I ended up attending a conference that I was supposed to speak at in San Francisco. I was going to do it online, but Mum said, no, you should go and be there in person and meet everyone and whatever else. So we went to San Francisco in 2018. And there I met a friend, Jeremy Howick, who became a friend. He's an author and he wrote the book, Dr. You.
Mm-hmm.
So we became friends and he talked to me about how to write a book and whatever else. And then after a period of time, an author called Jamila Rizvi rang me because she was writing a book. And then, so I talked to her about writing my own book. So those two people encouraged me to do it. And then Jamila actually made it a reality. And I ended up signing up with Pan Macmillan to write the book. And then here we are. It's finally done. So it's been quite a process in terms of just revisiting everything that's happened. And I just can't believe how much has happened during such a short time. But we also recorded the audio book a couple of weeks ago, and I'm so far removed from the book now, because like when you read it so much, when you go through it so much, you just like you lost yourself in it. So I don't know how I feel about it anymore. I hope it reads well, but it's kind of exciting to have it come out later this month.
Absolutely. Chithrani, what's it been like to support and encourage and that kind of thing, and to have, you know, an authored book? That's awesome.
Yeah. I must say I'm very lucky to be his mother.
It's dedicated to Mum, actually. The book is on the front page.
You too.
And he's such a blessing. So from the time of the accident, he never gave up on his dreams. So he was always reaching to the stars. And it made my job so much easier because he never asked me even once, why me? So he always went ahead with the attitude, why not me? And I can do this. So it was quite, he teaches me things that, you know, I would have never known in my whole life. Like, you know.
Amazing.
And I think together we are so strong.
Totally attest to that. I'll ask my final question, which is, you know, you have an open slather platform here to tell carers, to tell parents of kids with a disability anything that you want them to hear. What do you want them to hear from you, Dinesh?
Well, a few things, I guess. The love between you and uh, it's like nothing in this world, right? The love of a family, the love of the people that care for each other. There is nothing like that in this whole world. There's no stronger bond. So that is so precious. And I think you got to celebrate it, and we all have to celebrate it, because it's what makes the world go around, it, and it's what makes lives happen. So thank you for the love that you give to each other, and thank you for being you, I guess. Like I often see just little units like me and mom and other families, other little families getting around, and it's such a special thing, right? That thing that we have. So I think we should celebrate it and never underestimate it. I think we are strong together, and we can shape what disability looks like in this country and in the world. So I say that we should always be together as a community, and that we fight together and we march together and we shape our systems into what we want and what we will benefit from. And I think we should always be there for each other in this community as well.
Yeah, well said. What about you, Chithrani?
Yeah, families make a huge difference in a child's life, with or without a disability. They make beautiful memories. Families, friends, relatives, cousins, they are the ones that we carry through to our adulthood, and they're the memories that we treasure all the time. So with or without a disability, love of a family goes a long way. So be there for them as much as you could. And all the community and the friends that you make along the journey will make a huge difference in their lives too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think if there's any example that our awesome like families on the program and that kind of thing could follow, you guys are a good one. So thank you for joining me today. I do appreciate your time, and I hopefully will be able to chat again once your book is out, chat again once things are changing in the industry, and we've got more things to rant about. So thank you for coming, and we will chat again soon.
Thanks, Ella. Thanks for having us. You guys are amazing.
Thank you so much for having us, Ella. Bye.